Hello my loves, it's Monica, and today I am going to be sharing with you all the top 10 books that I plan on reading this summer. I am so excited for this list of books and to share them with you all. I have some fantasy, I've got some contemporary, some personal essay, and yeah, just lots of exciting stories that I cannot wait to dive into and talk about with all of you. I'd also love to hear from you guys. What are you planning on reading this summer? Let me know in the comments down below. Before I dive into talking about the books that I'm going to be reading, I do want to give a big thank you to this video sponsor, which is Disney Books. So Disney Books has stories for every YA reader this summer, whether you like contemporary or fantasy or anything in between. And I'm really excited to talk about a contemporary and fantasy specifically in this video. So first up is Curse of the Specter Queen, and this is by Jenny Elder Moak. And this is a YA fantasy, and it is currently out in hardcover and as an audiobook. And this one features lots of Celtic mythology, which I think is really exciting. It also takes place in Ireland. In this book, we follow Samantha, who has always had dreams of one day going off on these archaeological adventures. However, she pushes those dreams aside and ends up sort of hiding in an antique bookshop that she works at after she loses her father. But then one day, a mysterious package arrives with a damaged diary, and that really sets her off on this adventure with her best friend and her childhood crush. According to Stephanie Garber, it is a delightful historical romp riddled with cryptic puzzles, hints of romance, and an adventurous cast of characters. So yeah, this one sounds super fun, and I haven't really read much that deals with Celtic mythology, so that's something that I'm super interested in particularly. Then coming out on August 3rd is Like Other Girls by Britta London, and this one sounds so good. This is a YA contemporary coming-of-age story where our main character is pushed to reconsider their preconceived notions around gender, sexuality, friendship, and relationships in general, and it sounds phenomenal. We follow Mara, who ends up getting kicked off of the basketball team after getting into a fight, and so she goes off and joins the football team. But then a bunch of other girls go and join the football team because they've kind of viewed Mara's action of joining the team as like a political statement. So these 4 other girls join the team too. One of them happens to be the girl that Mara has a crush on, and the other one is the girl who Mara got into that original fight with. So they all join the football team too after her, and she gets really frustrated because she is like being treated like one of the girls, and basically I think this book is really exploring like how women are often like pitted against each other. And yeah, I just think that premise sounds really interesting and important. Thank you so much again to Disney Books for sponsoring this video. I will have links to both of those books in my description box below in case you want to check them out and learn even more about them. But now on to my summer TBR. So these first couple books are ones that I am reading for various book clubs. The first one I'm reading for the Magical Girl Society, which is a book club and anime club that I host with my friend Brianna, and we read and watch a new anime each month, and it's super fun. Our Discord is just like one of my favorite places on the internet. And yeah, so we are reading in June Raybearer by Jordan Ifueko, and this is the beautiful UK cover. I'm obsessed with it. It's so beautiful. I was so excited. They just announced what the second book is going to look like, and it also is beautiful. So I'm hoping I love this because I would love to collect these in the UK edition. So this book features one of my favorite book tropes, which is basically having to get someone else's trust so that you can then kill them. I love that trope, and that is the main premise of this book. Basically, we follow Tarisai, who has been raised by this mysterious woman called the Lady. She's basically as close to a mother as she's ever known, and so the Lady raises her and then sends her off to the capital in order to become one of the crown prince's like 11 most trusted like counselors, but has basically tasked her with getting into the council so that she can then kill the prince. This is also like an epic fantasy inspired by West Africa, so I also also am really excited to read about that and to see just like the fantasy world that this author builds. So yeah, really excited to pick this one up for the Magical Girl Society and to be able to discuss it with everyone. Also, speaking of Discord, I recently launched my own personal Discord that I've been loving. I've called it Our Cozy Cottage, and it's basically a place to talk about like cozy gaming and books and just anything, really. Do some crafting together. I've been doing a lot of live like read with me's over there, so if you are interested in that, I'll have that linked below. I've been really loving just like being part of that little community. It's been lovely, so just wanted to mention that. Now, the next book I am reading is my Patreon book club book, and basically bi-monthly we have a book club, and then we discuss it in our Patreon Discord. I have quite a few Discords. But anyways, that book is The Forest of Stolen Girls by June Her. This was one of my most anticipated books of the year. This is a YA historical mystery novel that takes place during the Joseon era in Korea. It's by the same author of The Silence of Bones, which I absolutely adored last year. Basically, this follows two sisters who went missing when they were younger and then like mysteriously reappeared. And then these sisters and their family moved away from that area, but then girls start going missing again. And so her father tries to go and like figure out what's going on, and then he disappears, and that sort of like sets our main character off on her quest to figure out what's going on. So yeah, really intrigued and excited for this one. Then I'm definitely planning on picking up The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan He. This one takes place in the like future, and we follow two sisters, one who wakes up and is on a abandoned island, and the other one who is a STEM prodigy living in a floating city. And this one deals with a lot of like environmental themes from what I understand, and it's supposed to be like just this really mind-blowing sci-fi, and I've been really trying to get more into sci-fi recently, so I've been excited to pick this one up. I've heard really phenomenal things from so many people who have read it though, so I'm really excited to dive into this one. Then I'm also super excited to dive into Take Me Home Tonight by Morgan Matson. Full disclosure, I did partner with Simon & Schuster over on Instagram for a post about this book, and that is because I love Morgan Matson. Her contemporaries are ones that I just adore getting lost in. They're so fun, and I just feel like they leave me feeling so like safe, but also I feel like but at the same time, they feel very honest. I just really love them. So I'm really excited for this one because this one takes place in New York City. We follow two best friends who are trying to basically have the best day ever, and the like adventure that they get up to. And I love everything about that. And I love stories set in New York City because I love seeing how different authors like interpret the city. I just think it's always so fun. So yeah, I'm hyped for this one, and I just love this cover, and especially the back cover, which features this adorable Pomeranian. Next, one of my favorite authors recently came out with a new book, and that is John Green, and the book is The Anthropocene Reviewed. So John Green has a podcast that I believe is the same title, and I'm not really a podcast girl, to be honest. I've just never really gotten into them. I think like at one point I tried really hard to be into podcasts and then just never really stuck. So I never really listened to his podcast, to be honest, but it always sounded very interesting. And so this one features I think all or if not like a large selection of the essays or the stories that he tells within that podcast. And I have this as both the physical edition and the audiobook edition. In the audiobook, there are some extra stories, but then in the physical edition, there's like photos and footnotes and stuff. So, but yeah, from my understanding, this collection of essays is like basically looking at different elements of humanity, like different facts and stories, and kind of retelling them in this very like John Green kind of way. I don't really know how to describe it, but I have watched like a few videos of him where he's shared some of the stories from this book, and they have every time gotten me to cry. So I think this one will be definitely a tearjerker. Speaking of sci-fi, another sci-fi, or I guess, I don't know if this one would be sci-fi or fantasy, maybe like a mixture of both, but one that I'm really excited to pick up is a recent release, and that is The Infinity Quartz by Akemi Dawn Bowman. And this covers, so beautiful. I've been really excited for this one because the premise just sounds so fascinating and right up my alley. In this book we follow Nami, who at the very beginning dies, and when she goes to the afterlife, there's basically this overlord, this ruler, who is like the equivalent of our world's Alexa. So like in the real world, or in the like living world, she is this AI assistant that people rely on, but in the afterlife she is like basically taken over human consciousness and is the ruler, and she's looking to like take over everything. So that is the premise. I think it sounds so interesting. Then one of the books that I had said I wanted to read this spring was The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I ended up not reading that because I decided that I kind of wanted to go and read more of Brandon Sanderson's back catalog before I finally dived into that series. And I don't have that much as far as like his adult fantasy to read, but one that I really wanted to read very soon was Elantris. So I finally purchased a copy of Elantris, and now that is on my summer TBR. This was Brandon Sanderson's debut novel, I believe. His debut novel, like that was like his first like original story. So I'm not 100% sure how to give a synopsis for this book, but I'm going to try my hardest. Basically, there is this place called Elantris, and Elantris is like paradise, and you go there and you're beautiful and everything is wonderful, and at any point a beggar, a prince, a knight, whatever, would one day wake up and like be destined to go to Elantris and like be worshipped as a god. And so that was Elantris, but this takes place 10 years after like it's no longer that paradise. Like it says eternity ended 10 years ago. So like the whole idea is they get worshipped for eternity, but eternity ended 10 years ago, and that's where this story takes off. I feel like Brandon Sanderson just does such a good job of like creating these really interesting like what if premises and then creating these whole stories off of them. And especially after like listening to his like writing podcasts and stuff, in like getting that bit of insight into his storytelling, that's like a really big part of like when he's developing a story, is creating that like what if premise and then expanding on that. And I just feel like I always have so much fun like just seeing how he unveils all of what's going on and the world and the characters and all of that. So then I'm hoping to finally pick up a much beloved contemporary romance, and that is Beach Read by Emily Henry. And in this book we follow two authors who go on vacation, not together, but they just happen to be at the same resort. One of them is a romance novelist, the other one, the man, is a literary fiction novelist, and they both are dealing with writer's block, so they swap books, or they swap genres, and that's sort of where the story takes off. And I just find that premise super fun, and also it sounds like the perfect summer read. So many people love this book, so I've been really excited to also pick it up and hopefully also love this book. I realized the other day that I never finished the Shadow of the Fox trilogy. I read the first two books. I still have to read the last book. So the last book of the Shadow of the Fox trilogy, Night of the Dragon by Julie Kagawa, is also on my list to read this summer. Yeah, I really loved this series. It basically reads like an anime. We follow a kitsune who joins up with a samurai, and they go on a quest together, and along the way they make friends who join their quest. It is truly such a fun, good time, and I'm really excited to finish the series because I loved it. And then lastly, the 10th book that I'm hoping to pick up this summer is the one that definitely is the most intimidating for me just because of its size, and that is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This one is so big. She's so chunky. This is 804 pages in total, and there is like a whole like multi-page list of characters in the back with descriptions, plus a glossary of terms. So yeah, I'm definitely a little bit intimidated to dive into this one. It is for sure a real like epic fantasy. On the plus side, it is a standalone, so it's a one and done kind of deal, which I do love. But yeah, I've had this on my TBR for so long, and I just feel like it's finally time to read the thing. We follow 3 characters in this book, I'm pretty sure. We follow Queen Sabrin of the Ninth, who has to conceive a child. Then we have Ayad Durian, who is was an outsider at the court and has like positioned herself to be like one of the queen's ladies in waiting, and she uses magic in order to protect the queen. And then across the dark sea, Tanae has trained to be a dragon rider since she was a child, but is forced to make a choice that could unravel her life. So those are our 3 main characters. I heard this book is amazing, super queer, love that. And yeah, I'm just really excited to finally dive into this one, and I hope I love it. That'll be so sad if I don't. It's always sad when that happens with a book that like you've had on your TBR for like ages, and especially one that you think is going to be a 5-star prediction, which this one has been for me. So here's hoping. We'll see how it goes. Really excited regardless, and I will be sure to let you know. I'll probably do a whole like reading vlog about this book. Those are the 10 books that I'm most excited to pick up this summer. I am also thinking about making a video about like my most anticipated summer book releases, so let me know if that is of interest to you, and I will be sure to plan that for some time in like July maybe. But yeah, there are so many books that I'm excited to read this summer also that just aren't out yet, but I wanted to contain these to ones that I already owned because I am trying to not buy as many books right now. It's not going well, I'll be honest, but I'm trying. But yeah, those are the books that I'm excited to read. I'd again love to know from you guys, what are the books you're most excited to read this summer? Let me know in the comments down below. And once again, thank you to Disney Books for sponsoring this video. Again, I'll have a link in my description where you can learn more about Curse of the Specter Queen and Like Other Girls. And I will talk to y'all next time. Bye!